Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Primary Care Podcast. It's your boy, Dr. Mark List, coming at you with another episode today. Primary Care Pod at primarycarepod@gmail.com inbox. You guys know where that is. You've heard me say it before. Here's a joke today for my British listeners. I can't do a British accent to save my life, so you get to not hear me try that. I got many British listeners, many British, Scottish, Irish, listeners. You guys outnumber the Canadians by about 3-1, just so you know. Did you guys know that it took 13 years to build Big Ben? Big Ben, the big clock tower in London, right? But, it really shouldn't have taken that long, considering they were working around a clock. That was pretty good. Okay, part number 2, and maybe I'll start swapping these around because I think I like doing the joke right before we cut to the break. Tell me in an email comment if you agree. Today's Dr. List Recommends was my favorite fiction book that I read in 2022. And the title is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. It's by Chris Paolini. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's a fiction sci-fi book. I am editing this in post because the description of the book that I read from Google ruins what I think is a really cool plot point and really was surprised me, so I'm not going to include that here in retrospect. Hopefully you enjoy these Dr. List picks. Most of them will be books, but I'll throw some movies or TV shows in there for you guys when they come up. So let's start the podcast. The Primary Care Podcast is written and edited by a family physician for an audience of other physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, residents, and medical students interested in primary care topics. This is not a podcast for patients and should not be used as medical advice. This is also a personal podcast produced on my own time and solely reflecting my personal opinions. Statements of this podcast do not reflect the views or policies of my employer, past or present, or any other organization with which I may be affiliated. Thank you for listening to the Primary Care Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark List, here to bring you the latest news, guidelines, and updates from primary care sources around the globe. Keeping it under 15 minutes long because you're in a hurry and I'm not that smart. Well, welcome back to the podcast, pod girls, pod boys, pod people. It's your pod doc, Dr. Mark List, coming at you another episode. Like I mentioned on the last episode, end of the year, December, it's a bunch of review articles and a bunch of stuff that's not very cool. But this article, kind of neat because, I have a very soft spot in my heart for physician efficiency, and especially when it comes to the clinic workflow, computers, etc. And this was a topic that I like to bring up. This was a new article, actually, the Christmas 2022 research article in the British Medical Journal. Again, we're keeping with our British listeners. Y'all over the pond over there. Y'all is not a British term. That was mate. My mates across the pond. Again, can't do the accent. So this was in BMJ 2022. Digital disparities among healthcare workers in typing speed between generations, genders, and medical specialties, a cross-sectional study. And man, this was a great topic, and I'm gonna tell you why. This happened at 2 large tertiary medical centers in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And what they did was they wanted to see how good these medical professionals were at typing. And so participants completed a custom web-based Santa-themed typing test in 60 seconds and then filled out an associated questionnaire. And so there were about 2,700 participants. A lot of the volunteers were younger because older people don't like to type to begin with. But then they basically tried to compare men towards women. They tried to compare typing speed by decade. They even looked at typing speed between different healthcare professional types, so like lab workers or nurses or administrative staff or the med staff themselves. And then they actually looked at typing speed based on different specialty of the med staff. So the PAs, NPs, and physicians, based on if they were in internal medicine, a surgeon, et cetera. We're going to get into that. And so not surprising, right? Not surprising. Typing speed was fastest in the youngest group, in the youngest decade of patients, right? So if you were under the age of 30, you had the corrected words per minute was in the upper 60s, okay? And then the next decade, 30s and 39s, I'm in that bracket. dropped a little bit. And men were slightly better typer than women, but not statistically significant in every single bracket, just FYI. Not rubbing it in or anything, because it really wasn't statistically significant. But the 30-year-olds had, about 60, okay, a little bit less than 60 for the average corrected words per minute, so about 60 words per minute typing. The 40 through 49-year-olds had a massive drop, and this actually dropped them all the way under 50 words per minute in the upper 40s per minute. The 50 through 59-year-olds dropped to the lower 40 words per minute, and the greater than 60s were down in the 30s, 30 words per minute. Now, why do I bring this up? Oh, also, while we're talking about it, med staff actually had one of the fastest typing speeds, just behind research and educational staff, but higher than nursing staff, lab personnel, administrative workers, etc. Okay. Specialties, internal med / primary care was the fastest. Absolutely booyah. Second place was urology. Third place was neurology. Pathology was up there. Psychiatry was up there. And the lowest two medical specialties, which should surprise nearly no one, was dermatology, because dermatology barely does any notes to begin with, but they were the lowest of all the medical specialties. And the second lowest medical specialty was anesthesia, if I'm reading that chart correctly. Okay, so now why do I bring this up? Number one, because it's a fun study, and I like to bring this up because one of my big things when I talk about physician efficiency is how fast can you get notes done, and accurately, right? So we don't want just garbage notes, because you can just write 2 words and be done. But how can you tell the patient's story, but at the same time getting you home to see your kids and have a life outside of medicine, right? I think it's really important because this newer generation, I see tons of recent resident grads. I have med students with me. I talk to med students. I have NPs and PAs that are just out of NP and PA school. And I'm at these clinics, I'm at these hospitals working with physicians, trying to improve their efficiency. And they tell me, I'm a really fast typer. All right, your boy is a really fast typer. In fact, I took the test, and if you go to the BMJ website and search for this study, the Digital Disparities Among Healthcare Workers and Typing Speed study from 2022, you can take the test yourself, and it's a Santa-themed typing test. And your boy got 78 correct words per minute. That's my typing speed, and it's a Santa-themed thing. I retook it again because I was like, I wonder if I can get even faster, and I was about 76 words. So pretty close, and very consistent, okay? Which would put me, again, this is not a brag. This is not anything. It would put me higher than basically anybody in the corrected words per minute in terms of age, or and way above average when it comes to medical disciplines, which all average somewhere. The average physician, PA, NP, the average med staff person, employee was 60.1 words per minute. And again, the older you get, the more that slows down. So why am I talking about this? Because your boy is what I think is a much above average typer. Okay, I'm a very fast typer. Do you know how fast I dictate? 145 words per minute accurately. That's corrected words per minute. Okay, and I've done that many times using different Dragon products. Again, I want to be neutral here. M-Modal, whatever your voice-to-text software you use is. I've had to demo different versions of our voice-to-text software. I've had to test it on different microphones and different devices to see when we were rolling these things out. That's part of my side gig here at my organization. And I literally voice to text corrected, so not just blathering stuff that doesn't get corrected in this gobbledygoosh that gets put in the patient's chart, but actually like going through corrected words per minute, 140, right? And again, I'm probably a fast dictator using voice to text because I'm practiced at it. I know the tips and the tricks, etc. But I can literally dictate twice as fast as I can type. And don't get me wrong, I use a ton of dot phrases. I use hundreds of dot phrases, okay? In fact, I think I have many hundreds of dot phrases that I use on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, okay? I have my my group of core ones that I use every day, all day, and then I have a whole group of other ones that I don't use very often. Why do I say this? Because a combination of short little sentences in combination with quick text are good. It is good. It is really efficient. But when you need to tell a patient story, whether it's HBI or whether you're dictating your MDM, your medical decision making, you're talking about your plan, anything that you are doing for literally longer than 10 seconds should be dictated, period. I don't want to hear it, all of you younger providers, nurse practitioners, PAs, MDs. I don't want to hear it, med students. You guys, when I go make rounds, you all make the same excuse. Well, I don't use Dragon. Again, product neutral, M-modal, whatever product you have. I don't use that. I've never really got into it. I've never made auto text. I've never really, trained it to say the words I wanted to say because I can just type faster. No, you cannot. There's a time and a place for typing, and I type all the time. But short little things in the middle of quick text, positives, yes, nos, mini little clips, maybe while you're in the patient's room. Again, I don't do that. I do it outside the room. But there's a time and a place for it. And I'm going to push you guys in 2023. This is very clear data that the average physician is 60.1 words per minute. And as people get older, their time slows. Your typing speed will slow over time. And again, we see that age difference. And yes, there is some discrepancy in terms of people who are more comfortable with technology being younger, and maybe you're a fast typer. But again, I think that you would go through the data and see that as we get older, we slow down when we type. Dictation, text to speech is faster. And if you are not multimodal, if you're not doing your notes in voice and in quick text and in typing, you are not being as effective as you could be. So 2023 is the year I'm pushing you. Please give it a try. Force yourself to improve. Be efficient with your notes. Get out on time. And it's a fun study. All right, it's a fun study. Again, I think that this is something that doesn't get talked a lot, which is being proficient in the EMR. And as I want you to stay up to date in the medical literature, I want you to stay up to date in being the most effective, productive medical provider you can be. And so there you go. That's my podcast for the week. So this has been Dr. Mark List signing off, reminding you don't stay up all night to stay up to date. Thank you. Have a great week. God bless.